So the G20 targets have been set along 4 different dimensions: increasing the speed, reducing the cost, providing the necessary transparency to the payment, and accessibility to payments. And I would say the dimension that has made the most progress so far is speed. The way the G20 target is set is requiring 75% of the payments to be delivered within an hour to the end beneficiary and 100% within a day. And we're happy to see in SWIFT data that 90% of the payments are delivered within an hour to the beneficiary bank. And contrary to popular belief, there's no long chains of intermediaries, but 86% of the payments are either direct or having just one intermediary. And the fact is that these intermediaries or correspondents are just adding little time to the total transaction time. However, there's more to be done. So when we look at the total speed end to end, there's 43% of the payments being delivered within an hour to the end beneficiary. And so that last mile, let's say, of the transaction is the one that's taken longer. And when looking at the top 40 countries by volumes in the SWIFT network, only 3 are meeting the G20 target, as it stated, 75% within an hour end to end. And the reasons for that vary. So sometimes the market infrastructure has a batch processing or opening hours, so they lack 24/7 availability. There's also regulatory requirements or market practices that are requesting FX and currency controls. And while we're not judging, of course, the needs of those controls, there is the possibility to seek for more efficiency into that last mile of the transaction. So financial institutions and policymakers can try to seek for means to make it faster, more efficient. I would say the G20 target where we still see or need to see more progress is transparency. And the way it's set is that payment providers should provide upfront transparency on the cost of the transaction, and that's comprehensive of the fees and FX markup, on the estimated delivery date, as well as the tracking of the funds. And this last point on tracking of the funds or traceability of the transaction is where we need to see more progress. So back in 2017, SWIFT launched GPI, which was a major revolution, I would say, in the financial space. So for the first time, financial institutions were able to trace the funds as they move along the value chain. And that's providing the necessary visibility to back office and operation teams to handle these exceptions and cases where the transaction is not reaching destination as expected, right? So, but it's being kept at the back-end side of the bank, right? And what about the end user? So the consumer or the business making the payment. What about when they are wondering, where's my money? Has it arrived? And they got no means to check for that. And ultimately, we as consumers were used to things like Uber or Didi Taxi here in China. And you can ask for a car, and then you can trace how it moves until it reaches the place you're waiting for it. So the same expectation applies to cross-border payments. You're sending a payment and could expect to be able to track how the money moves until destination and be notified when it happens, right? The good news is that we can make it happen. It's possible exposing GPI information via APIs into the front-end part of the bank, so a banking app for consumers or the corporate portal for businesses. And we're seeing more and more financial institutions taking that step forward and exposing the timeline of the payment to end users, but that there's still more to be done here. More adoption is needed.